Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to December the 5th, 2025, episode number 76 of Into the Fire, coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I can see that we have a lot of the regulars in the house tonight. I see Steph and, of course, Phyllis is here. I got to spend a little bit of time with the both of them at the U.S. Marshal Museum. And yeah, it's Tina in the background yelling, hey. She knows the rule, quiet on the set, but that's okay. She said hello, and hello in Atlanta to Amanda. Welcome. I really appreciate everybody being here. I see Danny's in the house too. Danny had to work tonight, or otherwise he'd be here. Hello, Stephanie, and all the others. I just really appreciate you guys spending your Friday evening with us. It really does mean a lot. I wanted to make mention of since there's so many people here, they're kind of interested in a lot of expert at nothing. That's clever. I like that. Welcome. And so I wanted to mention something. Those of you that are interested in the world of law enforcement, and yet you're, for whatever reason, you weren't able to join, or it was just something that you're just kind of fascinated with the world of policing. I want to remind people, you should consider a police, like a Citizens Police Academy in your area. They're in virtually almost every reasonably sized city, I would say. And if there's not one that's in your city, then you could find one in a neighboring city that's a larger one. All your big departments or mid-sized departments usually have them, and we do. And we run like 2 academies through the year, and they also have an alumni association here in Tulsa. And I told Trey Irby, who's the president of the Alumni Association here in Tulsa, he'd called me tonight, and I told him that we would basically put a plug in for him, and I think that's great. So if you're located in the Tulsa area, by all means, check it out. Hello, Darren. Good to have you here. Karen, it's always nice to have you. And I see Sarah, Savannah, and some other people. Kathleen, you've been a regular since day one. I love it. For those of you that aren't aware, and for those of you, I think like 80% of the people that tune in here are not subscribing, and I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. You just have to hit that button, and it takes you literally probably 30 seconds to do it, and I appreciate it. For the 2,700 and I think 2,770 subscribers that have officially done that, I really, really do appreciate it. It's nice to have you here. It helps with the algorithm. Hello, Jerry. It does help. It helps with the algorithm, and it brings more people on here, and that's what we want. So anyway, that's what I'm saying, and I appreciate it. In addition to that, if you are not subscribing to my Instagram, it's DET Jason White. There you go. You got a QR. What is that? A QR code. All you have to do is click onto that, and it'll take you right there. And subscribe or follow me on that one. And then also, I've got one for TikTok also. And all you have to do, I've made it so easy. It's just, it's easy. All you have to do is take a quick photo of that, and it'll take you right there. And for those of you that are listening on Spotify, Apple, and those sites, and you're not able to see what I'm talking about, just go to Detective Jason White on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X, all of them. I'm everywhere, and I do appreciate it. Because I'll tell you what, I told you before, my TikTok freaking went nuts. And my Instagram did the exact same thing. My Instagram overnight, I got like 4,000 or 3,500 new followers over the Thanksgiving weekend, which was really a lot of fun. So anyway, I'm kind of babbling here, but I'm just excited to be here. It feels like it's been like 3 weeks since we've had a live episode, and to be here for episode number 76, I'm stoked, and I think we're going to get to it. Quiet on the set to the grandson too. All right. All right. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's really an honor. I know there were some other things I wanted to mention. Oh, I do want to mention this. I'll give a shout out to this guy, Chad Robinson. I want to say hi to Chad Robinson and basically tell him thank you. Amanda, throw that caricature up of me and throw that up. Yeah, he sent that to me, and that's actually a caricature of me on the night that I was speaking in Fort Smith. And Chad basically, he said he said I needed a bobblehead, and he's going to see what he can do. He's going to throw that into a 3D printer, and we're going to see if, I don't know what he's going to do, but I think it's pretty cool looking, and I'm a fan of it. So Chad, thank you. That's very cool. And I'm really stoked about that. I don't want to waste any more time here. Oh, and by the way, thank you, Amanda. Thank you for reminding me. You can always go to KGRA. You could go to the digital broadcasting page, and you can find a lot of different merchandise, from hats to mouse pads. I think that drink glass is really super cool, and you can get all kinds of cool stuff on there. And maybe I can even encourage them to try to have like a Christmas break sale or something like that. I don't know. It's out of my. He is adorable, and he said that I told him, I said, I'm doing my podcast tonight, and Jack goes, I'm doing my podcast too, Grandpa. So he's doing his podcast right along with me tonight. So anyway, I don't want to waste any more of Mike's time. Mike needs really no introduction. I got to tell you, we've had him on here. I think this might be the fourth time to have him on here. And the subject that he's talking about is Bufford Pusser. And I really wasn't even going to ask him to come back so soon, because he's been inundated with media requests. I mean, I think he did an interview with Rolling Stone, and they've basically, the Elam Pusser tour. He has been inundated with requests from different things. I think he did some sort of a interview for Rolling Stone magazine, among others, and he'll talk a little bit about his journey. It's awesome to have him here. And he'd actually called me up, and when he called me up, he wanted to tell me some of the findings of what he has learned from actually reading the report from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. And I thought, man, that's great. I want to hear all about it. I don't have the time to read. For me personally, I don't have the time to sit down and read this 1,000 pages of it. I have a copy of it. I was able to get a copy, and I guess it helps to know people. I ended up getting a copy of it, and I've kind of looked through some of it. And but anyway, let's bring Mike on. Welcome, Mike, to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, the pleasure is all mine, because the last time you were on here, Mike, I've had over 12,000 views on that episode alone, with you, Dennis Hathcock, and Danny Couples. And I can't believe, I mean, I know you have a viewership like that. I don't, but I would like to on a regular basis. So, ladies and gentlemen, get on it.
I would say I am approaching 10,000 subscribers on my channel. I'm 100 away as of today. So it's Bufford Pusser, The Other Story, or Mike Elam on YouTube. And I would appreciate it if anyone that wanted to would come over and subscribe with my channel as well.
Why don't we just make that happen tonight? We'll pledge that that's going to happen, and your numbers are going to go up by 100 tonight, I hope. And also, when you get over there, he'll mention his book, but I'll mention it right here. Bufford Pusser, The Other Story. Did you get? Are you get copies being printed as we speak? Because I know that these things were flying.
I do.
Okay, good.
It's kind of hard to keep them in right now, but I'm working at it.
Well, I want to remind. Let's start off with not jumping straight to where we want to get to. I want to remind the people that are tuning in tonight. Let's start off. First of all, how long have you been investigating this? What kind of bring us to the beginning? What got you interested in this, and how many years has this been going on? And just kind of give us a brief run through to get to the point where we need to get to tonight.
Okay. Actually, I was in law enforcement in the early 70s. Movie came out in 1973. I was really impressed by it. You know, I mean, if you were young, you were in law enforcement, you wanted to emulate Bufford Pusser, except for carrying the big stick. I wasn't wild about that part. But at any rate, you know, I was impressed with the story, and it sounded mostly logical. I realized that they probably took a lot of license in the creative license in the production of it. But, you know, I started trying to research it, and all you could find was just a couple of books about it, W.R. Morse, such as that. And it was the mid-90s before the internet really started to come alive, and took it a little bit to mature even at that point. But I started picking up a little bit more information. I actually started a Yahoo group called Crime Myths. And I kind of aimed it at the region over there so that I could get information from hopefully firsthand sources. And so it actually started back in the mid 90s when I started getting some information in, but it was pretty sparse until along about 2005. I began to meet a lot of people, make acquaintances on the internet. I'd actually go over there and just visit, see who I could find and get in touch with. And things really began to pick up then. And well, when I first got over there, one of the first things I did was met with an associate who lived in Kentucky. We'd never met before, except on the internet and speaking by phone. But we made it a point to go over to the festival. And one of the things we did was go down to the ambush sites. And he was former law enforcement, as was I at the time. And it was one of those things where when we rode that route and we got down to the first ambush site, and we realized that it was just a short distance from that church to the ambush site. And we're sitting there trying to decide how that could have happened the way that Bufford described. And I don't know which one of us said it first, but we finally just admitted Bufford didn't tell the truth about this. And that kind of got the interest going. And so then I changed over from a Yahoo page to a Facebook page, and I started getting a lot more people interested in the talking about what that they knew. And the first thing you knew, well, bits and pieces started to come in from people who knew just small parts of the real story. And it was like putting pieces of puzzle together. And finally, you established a pretty good picture. It was incomplete, still is, as a matter of fact. But I guess it was in 2023 when, in May of that year, when Ricky Plunk called me up. And Ricky was was the son. His dad was Deputy Petey Plunk that worked for Bufford. And he called me up and said, I think I may have the gun that was used to murder Pauline. And at first I thought, I've heard this story at least a dozen times before, and, it never works out. But man, the story, when he started telling me, it was just checking off all the boxes with everything from him being young and his dad giving him this M1. His dad was getting up in years. And he told him that, the day of the ambush, Bufford had me go to Sibley's garage and take it out of the trunk of the car. And he indicated he was supposed to dispose of it, but he kept it. And eventually, he gave it to Ricky. And Ricky was young at the time. He didn't have, I think, a good idea of just how significant that was. But he got to thinking about it over the years and became so uneasy around the gun, he didn't even want to keep it in the house. And so one day he called me and said, I think I may have the gun. And we got to looking into it. I got in the car, drove over there 465 miles each way just to see the gun, photograph it, get the serial number, where it was manufactured, learn what year it was done, who manufactured it. And it started checking out to have been taken from the Air Force. And ironically, that was part of the story that was interesting because I'd spent time with O'Neill Moffett. And O'Neill was the son of Bufford's chief deputy, Jim Moffett. And I spent 4 days and nights with him just talking about all this. And he told me the story about how that he had stolen some guns from the Air Force when they were being decommissioned and the M14s were coming in. And he was told that they were going to be disposed of. So he decided he'd help them out with that. Took some home, sold them, and several of them ended up in Bufford's possession. And these stories began to match up. And it was just kind of strange that here you had two of sons of Buford's deputies that were involved in this and didn't even know that, for instance, that O'Neill had stolen some guns, and Ricky didn't realize that had happened, and that was one of those that he had. So it just all started to snowball. We contacted the TBI, and the next thing you know, well, they're exhuming Pauline.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, it is not an easy thing to do, to exhume a body. That's you have to have some significant. It's probably one. I would say I've not been a part of one of those. I would say that to do that, you have got to have some major reason to do it. They really are respectful to people that have been buried, and that's just not something that they. Hey, by the way, when they did exhume her, and I don't want to jump too far ahead here, but was she in pretty good shape, pretty well intact?
Yeah, she was. I was surprised, but her casket had been sealed in a concrete vault, and between that, she was fairly well preserved, and they were able to get a lot of information. For instance, they found that she had a broken nose, which kind of agreed with other stories that I heard that I'd been given about how that Buford had abused her. As a matter of fact, the chief deputy, Jim Moffitt, stated in one of the reports that he was aware that 3 days before Pauline was killed, that she had been abused, beaten by Buford, and that she was going to leave him. She had also mentioned that Will Terry Abernathy, the district attorney general in McNairy County, knew that she had been physically abused and knew that she was seeking a divorce. And still yet, he didn't see Buford as a suspect in her homicide, which I felt was really strange. And then that goes on to a lot of other things. It just kind of indicates that there was a cover-up.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. And this is not something that just took overnight. I mean, you'd been working on this thing and interviewing people over the course of what, 20 plus years, almost 30 years?
A lot of people. And one thing I'd like for everyone to know is, a lot of people say, well, I interviewed a lot of people from the state line side of the story, and I did, but they don't really recognize how many people that I interviewed from the law enforcement side, other than, like O'Neill Moffitt, who actually became a criminal investigator himself there in McNairy County years later. But I also interviewed Sheriff James Opal Gray, who was, came just shortly after Buford did in the line of succession. And then, there were other people, Ward Moore, who was the coroner there in McNairy County, Dr. Jerry Francisco, who would have been the person to have done the autopsy, who just was really helpful in explaining so much of what happened and why that Pauline had not had an autopsy. And a lot of people think they recognize his name. He was associated with Elvis's death and the autopsy that occurred there. So got to talk to a lot of people. Bill Morris, who was the elected the same time as Buford was. Bill Morris was sheriff of Shelby County over in the Memphis area. And he had real negative vibes about Buford.
Well, speaking of Memphis, let's go ahead and show that video, Amanda, real quick.
REG in Memphis. This is News Channel 3 at 5.
First at 5 on your news leader, it was a legendary story made famous by Hollywood. But now, 58 years later, investigators have uncovered new evidence about the 1967 murder of Pauline Pusser, the wife of McNairy County Sheriff Bufford Pusser. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Hurst.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Skurlock. At a news conference today, it was revealed Pusser's wife did not die during an ambush as first believed, and evidence now points in a startling direction. WREG's Mike Sirianni is in Somerville with more on how this cold case was finally solved.
There's no question Sheriff Bufford Pusser was a larger-than-life legend who fought crime with a big stick. However, the death of his wife, Pauline Pusser, in 1967 raised a lot of questions that have gone unanswered until now.
But there is probable cause to believe that Pauline's death was not an accident, not an act of chance, but, based on the totality of the TBI investigative file, an act of intimate, deliberate violence.
You could have heard a pin drop Thursday as information was laid out showing then Sheriff Bufford Pusser staged a crime scene August 12, 1967 to show his wife Pauline had been fatally shot in an ambush in McNairy County, a story Pusser, who was wounded, told investigators at the time.
That his wife volunteered to ride along in the dark early morning hours on a disturbance call. He claimed that a car pulled alongside his and fired several shots, killing Pauline and injuring him.
The story stood for decades, embellished in movies and books, until a tip in 2022 led the TBI to take another look at what had become a cold case, leading to Pauline's body being exhumed in 2024 for an autopsy with extensive interviews and ballistic tests pointing to inconsistencies in the sheriff's story.
That events did not occur, as stated by Bufford Pusser, and that Pauline Pusser was more likely than not shot outside the vehicle and then placed inside the vehicle.
Investigators now say Bufford Pusser's wound was likely self-inflicted and that Pauline suffered a facial injury believed a result of domestic violence. The investigative file, over 1,000 pages, would lead to one thing if Bufford Pusser was still alive.
Our office, after review of the case file, believes that the TBI has produced evidence sufficient to create probable cause, meaning more likely than not, that would allow us, if he were alive today, to present an indictment to the McNairy County grand jury for their consideration against Bufford Pusser for the murder of his wife, Pauline.
I'm not totally shocked.
In a videotaped statement, Griffin Mullins, Pauline's brother, said he misses his sister horribly and had been concerned about the relationship between her and Bufford.
She was just not the type of person to tell you her problems. But I knew deep down there was problems in her marriage.
For your news leader in Somerville, Tennessee, Mike Sirianni, WREG News Channel 3.
Meanwhile, the case file will be made public record and will be transferred to UT Martin and processed as part of the Digital Archive Initiative. In the meantime, we're hearing from Bufford and Pauline Pusser's granddaughter tonight. In a statement, Madison Garrison Bush said, in part, a dead man cannot defend himself in being accused of an unspeakable crime. I don't understand what justice can be accomplished by pursuing this theory of my grandmother's death.
Well, I can tell you what, the truth, and Pauline Pusser and her family deserve that. So I thought that statement right there was absolutely ridiculous, because I can guarantee you, Mike, and you know, I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me, if the tables were turned, that family would have been demanding answers all these years. So that was really, I couldn't believe, that's why I really wanted to show that, because of that statement alone. I thought that really tells a lot, because it tells you the divisiveness of two different camps here. And so you start doing all this stuff, they end up exhuming her. And I know that we had some discussions, and in those discussions you said, hey, what do you think about this? And I told you, I said, and I'm probably not the only one, but I told you, if they haven't called you already and had a press conference in 5 minutes, there's something up with this gun. And likely they're very interested in and that's why they led to the exhumation. And so here we have it. And also, you were kind of getting to the point where you didn't think that they were going to actually come forward with any of this information. Is that right?
Well, I was beginning to wonder, because it was taking so long. I couldn't figure out why that there were several variables involved, as you know, in any investigation of this scope and magnitude. There's a lot of pieces that are moving at the same time. But they finally got it done. You know, they had Griffon Mullins on there. I had interviewed him probably 15 years ago, as well as his brother Clayton. And at the time, they didn't really have any firm knowledge that Buford was ever a suspect in her death. And that's how well that they had kept things kind of covered up. They told me that they referred to Buford's dad as Old Man Carl, and said the last time that they were over there, about 6 weeks before the ambush, that they spoke with Carl and just asked, well, how are they getting along? And Carl told them that, well, Buford and Pauline are like lovebirds. They can't hardly keep their hands off of each other. And all that time, I think even by then, that Buford had already decided that he was going to get rid of Pauline, just from things I've learned, things I've heard. So it wasn't like a snap decision for him to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost kind of wondering, and this is just my own thoughts, and I don't know the case even a fraction of what you know it, but it kind of makes me wonder if maybe she had some intimate knowledge as to some of his misdeeds that he, you know, why take a chance? You know what I mean? At this point, she's obviously going to leave. And of course, domestic violence, unfortunately, was not looked upon like it is today. I mean, that, you know, it's a huge difference back then that it is, you know, the way we treat things today from there. But so what are your thoughts on that? I mean, what do you think that he actually got to the point where literally did he have a temper? I mean, I'm sure what do you think the real reason was?
Well, he had a temper. He was thought he was quite a ladies' man, and apparently he got around some, because I gave the TBI list of something like 7 different women that I knew that he had been with. Some of them still alive, so they actually had the opportunity to interview some of them, and some of them would say, yeah, they had been with him. And others would try to skirt the issue, didn't want to talk. But at any rate, there was one in particular that he had a big interest in. And at the time, she was engaged to be married. And she was still interested in seeing Buford. And when allegedly, when she was asked, she asked Buford, what about Pauline? And Buford was said to have told her, well, she won't be a problem much longer. And that was about 2 weeks before she was killed. I do know that Buford was going around telling people, Jim Moffitt being one of them, that he had been told that he would be stalked and killed. And it was almost, when you look back and you start piecing all this together, it was like 4 weeks before he was already building the story to indicate that he was ambushed by this group of, either from the state line, the Dixie Mafia, criminal element from northern Mississippi, the Detroit mob. You know, he came up with all kinds of people that were after him, which was kind of hard to believe, that because McNairy County at the time was only about 18,000 people. And so it's kind of like, how much mob involvement can you expect to find in a community that small? How much of a jackpot is there for all these different organizations to be going after? So it didn't make sense to me, and so that was a lot of why I kept digging.
I'm really kind of surprised also that, you know, based on the extent that he went to in this, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that somebody didn't end up going to prison that didn't have any involvement in this, actually. So,
oh yeah.
I know that he was kind of, you know, he initially was fingering, you know, Dennis Hathcock's father, right?
And it was one of those things where, if you have seen the Walking Tall movie, you know, there near the first of it, it shows where he goes into a club, he's beaten, cut up, robbed, left for dead. And there's no evidence that that ever happened. And that was at the Plantation Club. In the movie, they called it the Lucky Spot. And that was Dennis Hathcock's father's establishment. And apparently, Bufford and two other men came down, robbed the club. It was early one morning, somewhere around 5 o'clock. They'd got there. They stayed till everybody left. It was only W.O. and his wife, Larice, in the club at the time. They had living quarters there because if you didn't stay at your establishment or have someone there, it could very well get burned down because, your competitors, when they talk about there being a state line mob, there wasn't anything like what they showed in the movies. They were competitors. They weren't together into this. So if you were away from your club, one of your competitors just might come and burn it down just to increase their market share a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, they came down, the three of them beat, tried to break his neck, injured him. He was, W.O. was in the hospital for about 2 weeks. And they were even bringing people into his hospital room for a lineup, if you will. And they actually established, my understanding is, through a laundry marker that had been dropped on the floor during the scuffle, that traced this party back to Chicago, which is where Bufford, Jerry Wright, and Marvin King Jr. all lived. And so they had warrants drawn up for them. They were arrested, transported back to Alcorn County, not McNairy County, like it showed in the movie. But I guess what I'd like to point out is that all of this, when you get to looking into it and you're saying, how did they manage to skirt all this? Well, you go back to the ambush itself. You had the county medical examiner show in his one of his reports that Bufford was shot in the forehead, which agreed with the statement that Bufford made to the TBI. And of course, we know now that she was actually shot in the back of the head. And so you're wondering, why did the medical examiner lie about that? And then you could look at the prosecutor back then, Will Terry Abernathy, and you have to question, well, if he knew that Bufford had been abusive to Pauline and that she was seeking a divorce, why would he not look at Bufford as a possible suspect in her homicide? And you also have to go back about a year and a half earlier when Dennis's aunt, Louise, was killed there at the state line. In the movie, they called her Callie Hacker. In reality, her name was Louise Hathcock. Didn't happen in a crowded bar. It happened in her private living quarters at a motel there on the Tennessee side of the state line. Bufford and her went to her room privately. Jim Moffitt was in the hallway right outside. He couldn't see what was going on, but I'm sure he could hear a lot of things. And Bufford shot her. And in that incident, there was an autopsy on Louise, which showed that she was shot in the back twice before she was shot in the head as she lay on the floor. And it was just, you had to wonder why that we couldn't find that autopsy report for so long. They kind of kept it buried. So apparently these two gentlemen may have had some involvement with Bufford somehow. I don't know if they all had something on each other, if they were all part of a cabal of their own, and they felt like they had to protect each other. I don't know what the motive was, but hey, I'm looking into that now. It's a story that just keeps on giving.
Yeah. And then there's no way me and Mike have talked about this before too, that, there's a real possibility that with his generosity that we might have to have him back again, because there's a tremendous amount. You get the report, they do this press conference, you go there for the press conference. I'll say it like I've said it before. I'm a little disappointed they didn't at least give you an honorable mention, because I personally do not think that we would even be talking about this case at all if you hadn't started. And I'm not saying that other people might not have been digging into this a little bit, but I don't think we would have been here today. Somebody obviously had the trust in you to reach out to tell you about this gun. I mean, it's just not something that was an easy thing for them to do, I'm sure, but they did. And that's what really got this ball rolling on this whole case. So you go to the press conference, and I know you don't care about that. You're not looking for the notoriety, et cetera. But I have to give credit where credit is due, Mike. That is something that I think that is well earned, and I have tremendous respect for you for doing what you did. Now, I want to mention one other thing too, just to the people, because you're going to get a bunch of messages, and I am too. And we already know that you're going to get the barrage, because I've already gotten some of these in the past episodes that I've done with you, Mike, of the people that are I don't care. It doesn't matter if you've got video of Bufford killing her. They're never going to believe it. It's just not going to happen. Okay. But and as I've said it many times before, and I've said it probably on this podcast, and I know I've said it on others, is that if you have a Tennessee Mount Rushmore that's going to exist, you're going to have Elvis Presley on there. You're going to have Dolly Parton, Davy Crockett, and then you had Bufford Pusser. So if you think that the TBI and the state attorney general's office took great pride and it was an easy thing for them to do to etch him off of that mountain, it's just not going to happen. I mean, they're going to have substantial evidence that goes to this for them to come to that conclusion. And so let's talk a little bit about that, Mike. What is it now? You've had a chance to you probably still are going through it. I mean, it's a massive report. In going through not just the report that they came up with, but the report of all of the reports that you've never even seen before. Right? I mean, there's a lot of these reports you've never even seen. So I think it's amazing that they put this out there publicly.
Well, that's the thing that people need to understand, is that this is only the second time that the TBI has released a full investigative file to the public.
What was the other?
It was Lamar something. I can't not remember the name, but in both cases, they felt like the crimes and the information was so compelling that in order to get people to understand it and believe how it actually happened, they would have to release the reports. And that's what they've done with Bufford's. Now, it was one of those things that I knew that they were having the press conference. I wanted to go over, and my plan was to just slip in, see what they had to say, and slip out. And that kind of got spoiled for me, because one of the people that was there in the media group was someone I'd been on their podcast before, Billy Spalding. And when he knew what I was going to do, that I was just going to leave, he went over and told some of the guys and gals that were in the with the media, said, "That's the guy that found the gun." And next thing I know, man, there was cameras going off, everything, people asking me questions, a lot of things I didn't expect. But then after I got out, one of the people from the TBI did come up to me and say, this would never have happened if you hadn't found that gun. They just weren't going to be able to touch it otherwise. But that gun is so compelling in so many different ways. And a lot of people try to say, well, they're not sure that the ballistics match. It came up as inconclusive. Well, as you know, it's more than just the ballistics. That gun was made,
it's
I
a
think,
piece of the puzzle.
1943.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been shot, used. The striations are probably all these years later may not match exactly like that they did back in those days, but it's how it connects, going from the Air Force to O'Neill, from O'Neill to Bufford, and then to Petey, and then to Ricky. All these people have this gun at one time or another, have possession of it. And that backstory, when you start going through it, just becomes so convincing that, hey, there was a lot going on here. And it's really is just an incredible story. But You know, I didn't care about the recognition. I was just glad that they finally did it. And,
Yeah.
you know, one of the agents told me, said, when we sat down to talk about it and we realized how serious this was going to be, that we were taking down Tennessee's, if not the nation's biggest law enforcement icon. And, you know, they were saying, why should we do this? And they looked up on the wall, and one of them pointed at the motto that they have and said, that's exactly the reason why. It's something to the degree that that the innocent shall not suffer, and the basically that the guilty will not go unpunished. And they said that's the reason we need to do it, and so they got involved.
Yeah,
And
and
at
that's
first
a lot of the
they didn't have any plans to release the files to the public, but then it just became such a big deal that they knew they had to.
Oh, I think that's a brilliant move on their part, honestly. Otherwise, you're going to have every conspiracy theorist. It's just going to be crazy for years, and people are going to, you know, doubt this and that. I think that was a really good move, honestly.
Oh
yeah.
yes.
So yeah, for sure. And you mentioned, you just kind of touched upon it, but some of the evidence that we're talking about here is going to be, you know, blood evidence and so forth that
yes,
that's going to be on the outside of the car, and it doesn't even come close to matching up to his story.
No, Buford's story was so different than reality. For instance, you know, he said that he got to the second ambush site, that Pauline had been wounded at the first, that she was still alive. He pulled over to check on her, and he said the Cadillac pulled up, and he was parked on the right side of the road, that they were parked on the left side, and there was enough room between the two vehicles for another car to have probably passed through, which when you see that road, you know that is not correct. But at any rate, he said that he was looking directly at Pauline when she was shot in the forehead, which was something, like I mentioned previously, that the county medical examiner agreed with at the time. And then he said he got hit by a round, and he went down, fell on top of her, and that he doesn't know how long he was unconscious, but when he got up, he came to. He said the car was still sitting over there. Now, I think you and I would both agree that if these people are anything like professional assassins, they're not going to sit there and wait for a while to see if the guy moves. They're going to get up and make sure they finished him off. But he says he raised up, looked over, and they were still sitting there, and the car engine was off. And he said he got out of the car, lunged across this distance in between the two vehicles, grabbed the barrel of the rifle, and was yelling at the driver, "Get out of here, get out of here." He said the driver reaches down, turns the ignition, starts it up, and drives away. He described the clothing that the shooter was wearing, his hairstyle, his complexion. And you and I both know that any time that a victim of a crime especially remembers that much detail, they're probably lying about something. Then he said he went to the trunk of his car as they drove away. He looked for a 30-06 he had in there, and said he remembered that he had loaned it to a friend a couple of weeks before. He was going to use that gun to chase him down and kill him. And said he drove down to the Highway 45, which was about a mile away at that point, turned north, went towards Selmer, didn't find him. He'd already looked to the south when he got to the intersection and didn't see him down on toward the Mississippi side. Mm-hmm. So after going north a ways, he turns around, comes back to the state line, pulls over in the parking lot there at the Shamrock, turns around, still looking for him, can't find him, goes back up New Hope Road thinking he's going down State Line Road. And then he said he got to feeling groggy and decided that the best thing to do would be go seek medical help. But instead of going to Corinth, which had a much larger, better equipped hospital, a trauma center, he turned to Selmer, where all they had was what we would now probably look at as not much more than a walk-in clinic. And I think he just didn't want to cross that state line and give the FBI an opportunity to get involved in the case.
Well, I think
So-
that would have been a huge mistake. Actually,
yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that the FBI wasn't involved in it anyway. And the other thing I want to mention too, Mike, and we've talked about this before on another show, is that let's say a cop's wife or a sheriff's wife gets killed. People are not. Let me just let you know something, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that we're any more special or our spouses are no more special than anybody else that we deal with when it comes to a death, but it's just they're not stopping until they're not going home. They're not stopping. You've got guys that are going to go out on a mission to find those people at all costs. I'm telling you, that's just not and I didn't see that, or at least I haven't really heard that was really the case in this particular situation. I mean, for God's sakes, Mike, they didn't even do an autopsy on her, which is still mind-blowing to me.
No, and better yet, the district attorney, when he heard that Moffitt had his doubts about Buford's story, he called all the law enforcement officials into the county courthouse and told them, if you have proof that Buford was behind Pauline's murder, you need to tell me here today. If you don't, I don't want to ever hear about it again. And I mean, if that was like sending a signal to everyone that they needed to just drop it. And that's basically what a lot of them did. They knew that without the DA's support, they weren't going to get anywhere. So
as you've looked through some of these files, what are some other things that have really jumped out at you that it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty fascinating, or stuff that you just didn't know that really kind of helps with this investigation?
Well, of course, there wasn't any way to know until they actually exhumed Pauline's body, which was the condition of her body. But the imaging that just so I did not realize until I actually saw his statement where he said that he was looking directly at Pauline when she was shot in the forehead. I'd never heard that before. And so you can imagine how I felt when you see the imaging from the autopsy showing that she was shot in the back of the head. And right then, man, this was a murder. He did it. And the other part, I guess, was that I learned that was kind of surprising to me was, of course, I knew Pauline carried a small handgun. Well, Jim Moffitt said that the chief deputy said that morning they took the car to Sibley's Garage, a dealership there in Selmer, to get it into a secure location where it could be locked up. Nobody could touch it until the TBI had a chance to process it. And so he said he went by to check on the M1 that he knew that Buford carried in the trunk of the car. And he said it was gone and he could never find Pauline's handgun that she used. And I don't know what caliber it was. I have a feeling it was probably something like a .32 caliber. But Buford's chin was what was hit, not his jaw like was shown in the movie. The movie had everyone thinking his jaw was blown away and, all this. He was in a cast. That never happened. It surprised me when they said it was, after reading his story, that, they determined that his wound was a close contact wound. And it appears that Buford probably stuck a small caliber handgun in between his cheek and gum and pulled the trigger, and thinking that he would have a small hole where the bullet exited, probably not thinking about the compression and all the gases that would be coming out of that barrel, and it tore his chin. And I think most people will see what appears to be a little almost vertical scar that goes up and down.
Which,
And,
by the way, one of the things that I'd read that the doctor said that wound, there's a picture that's after the fact, isn't it, Mike?
yeah, it is. But there it's at such an angle where you really can't see the chin of the wound.
Right. And I'll see if I can find another one. So the what I was going to mention is one of the reports says that wound was close contact. So I'm going to guess that there had to have been some stippling and so forth. Unfortunately, the pictures that come through on the new release of the reports, the pictures that I've gotten are probably a picture of a picture of a picture. But
I might mention, a lot of people were shocked when they heard that to get a copy of the file is $400. And the file is a lot closer to 2,000 pages than it is 1,000 pages. And that's the reason for the expense, is because they didn't want to have it printed in quantity. So they're actually just printing it off as people want a copy. But what they're now doing that is a whole lot more economical, and the quality of the pictures is excellent. You can contact UT Martin in Selmer, and the cost of a USB drive with all those information, including the videos of where they reconstructed the shooting to check on trajectories and things of that nature. Those are all included on the USB drive, and it's $50. So that's a lot more affordable.
Yeah, not only that, can you get it if you live outside of the state of Tennessee, or is that a Tennessee resident only? Okay.
As far as I know, you can. So, there is that. And what else was I going to say? The kind of there were several things that just really caught my attention that just seemed to be a little unreal. We were just all so fooled by what we saw in the movie with him being made to be such a legend. And then you find out he was just a common crook.
Yeah. You need to watch it. Hey, I see Tyler Burns is in the house. Previous guest. Welcome, Tyler. Appreciate you being here. He said something that he needs to watch the movie again. And I think the movie, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm talking about the original one. The original one's the one you want to watch. I mean, that's the good one as far as I'm concerned. And
the other two are based, or the other two of the original franchise are just basically stories where that they incorporated a lot of things that happened to other law enforcement officers that didn't happen to Bufford, but they made it appear that they did. The first one comes closer to the real story, and it's only about 15% true at best. So I
think what I was going to say is I think it's on Amazon. I think you can watch it on Amazon if I'm not mistaken, because actually I watched it probably about 6 months ago, and it's still actually an entertaining movie.
Let me say that I believe that is one of the best movies that I think I'd ever seen. I have a tendency to view movies in genres rather than as a whole. As far as law enforcement movies, that's my number one pick. I love the movie, didn't like the real story. And that's the same way with sci-fi. I am about the original Star Wars movie. Hey, that was the best one. So,
Agreed.
But
let me. So there's one. Is there a possibility that Bufford took more lives than just one? Well, yeah. He killed Miss Hathcock. I mean, that's for starters.
He killed Russ Hamilton.
On
Christmas Day of 1968, in a very questionable shooting, just like with Louise Hathcock being shot in the back, and that being hidden for decades before we found out that. There was actually an autopsy report and how she had been shot. And we know that she was on the floor when he shot her in the head because pieces of her teeth were impacted into the carpet. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen when somebody is standing upright. Yeah. It's just a bizarre tale when you start comparing all this. And the thing I like to tell people, there's a lot of, I refer them to naysayers and Pusser files. They have Pusserphilia sometimes, I think, but but they want to just really get after you when you try to tell the real story. And I tell them, well, look, I'm nobody special. I didn't have all that many years in law enforcement myself. I was a field deputy, never an investigator, even though I was offered the job if I would stay on. Sheriff Andy Lee asked me to be a criminal investigator, but I could just make a lot more money in the private sector, and I had a family to raise. So naturally, I did what was best for the family. But all these people will use that and say, well, how much does he know? He doesn't know that much. He wasn't in law enforcement that long. We can't find any record of it. Well, I was in there twice, once in the early 70s and once again in the 90s. And, it's one of those things where I tell them, if I can figure all this out, that he was guilty, then surely you guys, if he was innocent, could do the same thing. So why don't you just come up with your proof that he is innocent of all these things, rather than just making all these noise about how everybody else is lying about his guilt?
Yeah, and let's take it a step
they can't
further.
do it.
How about just be open-minded? I mean, read for yourself what the investigation yielded. What did the TBI? Listen, I'm just going to say, I think the TBI has got an extraordinary reputation. I mean, they're not some fluke of an agency. They're legit. And those agencies do exist throughout this country. Trust me. They're going to do a very thorough job, and they're not going to spare any expense on this case. So just read for yourself. And if you literally, instead of just sitting there running your mouth, trying to threaten lawsuits and Mike, just curiosity, how many death threats have you gotten over the years? I mean, and even recently,
I've lost track. You've had more people call up and say that they wanted to take care of me. It's not even funny. And, it's, I mean, some of them just as short as about 2 years ago. Now, mostly what I see are harassment calls, where that people will call up here right after the announcement. I was getting phone calls at 3:00 in the morning. Just people calling up in the middle of the night just to harass you. Got to where I'd have to leave my phone off. Most of it I don't worry too much about. But you just can't be too careful on the other hand.
No, you can't. All it takes is one wacko. So I would just if you don't agree with what has been talked about, what the team, then okay, you don't have to agree with it. That's okay. That's the beauty of it. And turn the channel and just go watch something else. I mean, if it's going to make you have such anxiety to the point where you're willing to, I don't know, just have your opinion and be respectful of other opinions, etc. So let's talk about the town. Okay, this announcement comes out. There is a museum in Adamsville, Tennessee. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you live in the area or you want to go visit down there, Mike goes there. And what's this event that they have down there?
Pardon?
What's the event that they have down there?
Oh, they have the Bufford Pusser Festival every year in May. And believe it or not, I support the museum. I do tours twice a year. I've always been able to do it for free, where we'll take people around to all the sites that are Pusser related, where he was killed, to the home and museum. We take the route that he and Pauline drove that morning, which is an unbelievable route. When you see it, you would say, why would anybody ever go this way? And the answer is pretty simple. He didn't want to be seen. We go down to the state line. After we make both the ambush sites, we see where all of this was supposed to have played out. We then go back up to the courthouse and we tour the jail, which is where Bufford actually housed his inmates and where he had his office. So it's an interesting day, a full day when we do that. And I do that, like I say, twice a year. I like to do Friday, do it as a law enforcement day where it's basically law enforcement people, and we'll have some people from the media that want to ride along that day. And then on Saturday, it's for the general public, and we'll take people out and show them all this. Dennis Hathcock and others are always there. They tell the parts of the story that they actually lived, and it's just an interesting time. We go out that night for dinner. Everybody, it's a Dutch deal that night because I am not a rich man. I can't buy everyone dinner, but we have a good time. And like I say, do that twice a year. But I support the museum. We take everybody there, and they get their admission fee that a lot of people buy the memorabilia while they're there. I don't know why anybody wants a stick, but what amazes me about Adamsville is they're struggling to some degree with what they need to do now that his legend is pretty much gone. And I think that they're going to continue on the exact way that they always have been. I suggested that they make the museum more of a, and his legend is more of a Wyatt Earp type story. Yeah, he did some good things while he was sheriff. Every sheriff does. If you want to get reelected, the best way to do it is to do your job. And, but he also did a lot of things that people weren't aware of. And that's what this story is all about. And it kind of reminds me of Wyatt Earp. He was a gambler. He ran saloons, ran prostitution while he was a lawman at the same time. So the stories are kind of parallel in that regard. And when you look at it that way, it's just an interesting story.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to go that way.
Hey, Mike, what's the link to to get this thumb drive? Is it
you can
somebody's messaging on there that they can only find that $400 print
you
version?
can actually call University of Tennessee Martin in Selmer and contact them, and they can set you
point
up.
you in the right direction.
And
it
is by check only. They do not take credit cards. So it's kind of strange, but that's the way it is. And so just send them a check and let them know that you want it. Give them your return address, and they will get you one.
All right. Before we get off of here, because I want to spend a little bit more time. What's some other things that were really standout items of evidence that, we've talked a little bit about the blood.
The blood evidence was
a big deal.
Was really compelling, and
which is that her blood has got to be on the outside of that car, like where it looks like she was killed on the outside.
Yeah. And but
which that is going to be her blood too on the inside of the door.
And they say that their part of it is that they say that she was shot on the outside of the car, then she was placed on the inside of the car. And a lot of his stories over the years, he said that neither of them ever got out of the vehicle, but yet in his statement, he said that they did, or he did. Said that he got out, of course, charged over there, grabbed the barrel of the carbine, that the gun was allegedly jammed, had a casing in the ejection port, and couldn't be fired. And the shooter was trying to eject it, get another round in, I guess, so he could continue to shoot. But Bufford said he grabbed the barrel of the rifle, and I assume that he came up with that story because if that gun was ever located, I'm sure he wanted to say, well, I grabbed a hold of the barrel of that, which would explain his fingerprints being there.
Absolutely.
But when you look at the photographs, and like I say, on the thumb drive, they're much better than a lot of the things that people see. You see the blood in the back seat, how it goes down into the floorboard. You see a good clear picture of that void that you had up on the screen just a moment ago, where her head lay when she was placed into the car. The other thing that really got me was when they showed
the one before that, Amanda. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Up there by
You can see that
the
circle
door lock.
there by the locking mechanism where there's no blood, but it streams all around that void, which, says a lot. But the other thing that got me that I was impressed with was that they got a vehicle, put some ballistic gel heads in there at the proper heights, one for Bufford, who was 6'6", one for Pauline, who was about 5'4", 5'5". They tried to reconstruct the trajectory that they were being shot at, as Bufford described it. And of course, it showed that for her to have been shot in the forehead, that Bufford would have taken a round through his shoulder, and it would have gone in his back, out the front of his chest, and before it struck her in the forehead. And we know that didn't happen. Then when you look at where he said that the car was sitting, that it doesn't make sense because of where the bullets landed and struck, like in the car's dash, up on the doorpost, the back panel that is in between the passenger's rear window and the back windscreen, how it took several rounds. And so the trajectories didn't make sense for it to be coming from a car sitting on the opposite side of the road. And that's what leads you to believe, or led me to believe, that Bufford was actually the one doing all the shooting, and he was on the outside of the car on foot and walking around. That's the reason why the bullets, for instance, were going downward and striking low on the console and the dash as they were. And then you had some that were up in the doorpost behind where his head was. And I think he did that to try and make it appear that they intended to shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
And
it's a different time too, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, they didn't have blood spatter. They didn't have blood spatter or blood pattern analysis. It didn't exist. No. They just didn't have it. They didn't really even have crime scene detectives. You had cops that basically were probably sweeping up casings and throwing them in a bag if you were lucky. And that was that. I mean, so what Tennessee Bureau of Investigation was able to do is they were able to use technology of today, which, let me tell you something, it's light years ahead of what it was then. I mean, it's not even close. And they were able to look at that and do the best they could with whatever I'm sure there wasn't hundreds of pictures that were taken, and there wasn't very many, but they were able to limited. Very limited. And not only that, they were able to, obviously they were able to get some swabs, that there were some samples of this blood, which I'm really shocked, to tell you the truth, which is how shoddy this investigation was from the gate. But they're able to tell, apparently, that her blood was on the outside of the car, which is pretty great that they were able to do that.
I think she was blood type A and he was blood type O. But there were two different blood types that were in or on the outside or both of the vehicle, and but they were different types, and they were able to establish that by some means that she was shot in front of the vehicle and then placed on the inside.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a little bit above my pay grade. So
yeah,
make that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, nowadays they're able to do a whole lot with that. So
yeah.
So it's just really impressive for me that and actually there was something else I was going to mention too about something that you had said before, and I'm trying to think of what it was. It'll come to me here in a moment. But what was going on in Tennessee during this period of time? I mean, obviously he must have had some dirt on some people that they were intimidated, afraid. I mean, it's just a fascinating.
Yeah, it wasn't just that he had dirt on people. I look back, and he and Ray Blanton were from the same small town of Adamsville. Ray Blanton was a member of the U.S. House of Representatives that represented that area of Tennessee. And here Bufford was sheriff of the county. And when Blanton, of course, he got removed from being governor by what they called impeachment Tennessee style. They actually swore Lamar Alexander in 3 days early, and it was a surprise move because they realized that Blanton was selling pardons, commutations, and paroles. If you had enough money, you could buy your way out of prison in Tennessee with the Blanton administration. And so when they realized that one of his last moments, he was going to parole, I think it was 52 more people, they decided to swear the governor-elect in early. And so at the time that he ran for governor, of course, Bufford was killed before he was elected in that car accident he was in, which incidentally, Bufford died as a drunk driver. His blood was at his blood alcohol concentration was at 0.18, which made him about twice the legal limit. Mm-hmm. Blanton was actually going to, it's my understanding, have him be the director of the public service department, which involved being over both the TBI and the highway patrol. So if you can imagine what a conspiracy enterprise that Pusser had going in Little McNairy County, can you imagine if he had that thing going statewide?
No, I'll tell you, no, I don't. But I know what I was going to say to you, Mike. Another one of the comments that I would get a lot of times from people, there's no way that he could have shot himself. Yes, there is. Yeah, there is. He didn't have any, matter of fact, none of his teeth actually got touched, and neither did his tongue. So there was no damage to those areas. Am I right? I don't want to misspeak on the tongue because I don't remember.
No damage to his gum, his upper palate, his teeth, his tongue. Like I say, it's almost like he had to tuck that small caliber handgun on the inside of his lip, get it over close to the cheek and pull the trigger. And I think
it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun.
I think he probably just didn't anticipate that it would, all the gas and the compression from that round going off and the closed quarters of his mouth would just basically tear his chin off. And it wasn't hanging down to his chest like people say. I've got a photograph that one of the original photographs of taken of his wound right after it happened. Patsy Horton, her husband Roger, and Bufford were good friends. And Patsy contacted me one day and said, well, I've got these photographs that Roger paid Petey Plunk $500 for him back when all this happened, which $500 was a great deal of money back in the early, late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, it's a quarter of a car.
And anyway, she said, he's gone. I don't have any use for him. He said, I thought you might have more use for him than I do. And so I got a pretty good look at what the wound really looked like. And, but about the only thing it did was just blow his chin off more than anything, blow it apart. Because like I say, you can see the scar that goes downward. And I think all he was expecting was a in and out hole. Got a lot more than he bargained for.
Yeah. And when you're looking at possible prison, people will do extraordinary things, especially when they're a cop and they don't want to go to prison as a cop. It's just, Listen, this is not the first time that a husband has killed his wife. And I don't care if you wear a badge or not. It happens a lot. So I'm not surprised about it one bit. I'm just really thrilled that, number one, I'm honored to have you as a friend, Mike. I think you have done an extraordinary job here. I love your motto of truth has no agenda. And that's the truth. I mean, Mike doesn't have an upside to just make up this stuff. And like I said, all he did was just be the kind of the line of communication to these people for some of these witnesses and so forth that may not have talked before. And I'm sure there's still people that didn't want to even mention anything.
Oh no,
all these years later.
Some of the people they tried to interview just really didn't want to talk about it, and that tells you something. Just depending on who they were and what their part in the story was, when they don't want to talk, that often says a lot.
Mike, you're still combing through this case. You're still reading through it and digesting what is going on. So I have no doubt that we'll probably have you back on if you're willing, and we'll address some of the additional things that come up, because I think that it's important for the public to know. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike, great job. I know you're working on another book, and in this next book,
working on one about the ambush. And it'll be almost solely about the ambush and everything that I'm learning there, now that I've had a chance to look at the file and compare it with what I knew in the first place. And I would like to say, if you have never listened to Jason White speak, I've had the opportunity to do so twice, and I have been so impressed with what Jason and the Tulsa Police Department have been able to do as far as homicide investigations. It is just incredible, their closure rate as compared to most other towns and cities. And it's, to me, like Jason was saying, it's all in the technology, or a lot of it is in the technology that they use now that other departments just haven't gone with yet. And he does an excellent job of describing what they do, what they use, and what might be coming up in the future. So if you get a chance to hear Jason speak, you really need to take the opportunity to do so.
Thanks, Mike. I'm honored to do it. I appreciate those kind words. January the 23rd, I think, is the date. I'll make sure that I let people know in the near future. January the 23rd, it's going to be I'm going to be speaking again, but this one will be in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It will be to benefit the Tulsa Police Department Museum. They're working on putting together a museum. So we would love to have you there. And I don't know if they're going to charge an admission or not. I don't know. I'll probably learn a little bit more. I know that they would like for you to bring your wallet and donate something to the cause. I mean, that's what it's about. That's important. For everybody that's been in here, listen, I appreciate all the kind comments. You got to like and subscribe, please. Not only check out my podcast, check out Tyler Burns. It's Debrief with Tyler Burns. You got to check out Mike's. I want to see Mike's numbers just balloon tonight. I really do. I want it. You're so close to getting, what would you say, 12,000 or is it 10,000? That's a big deal. So help him out. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate you guys being here. Tell your friends and family. I like to put content on here that you're going to walk away where you actually felt like you've learned something. And this is the whole point of why I'm doing this. I'm trying to bring people on here that are movers and shakers. I will tell you, I don't want to give it away, but I'm going to be bringing somebody that everybody knows throughout this world in reference to the OJ case. That's coming. I'm actually going to have somebody on here that was a bona fide Hell's Angel, and he's going to be joining us down the line as well. And I've got some really big time guests that are coming on, and I really want this to we've been around since 2023, December of 2023. I want to keep it going. And like I said, I will put this out there. If you know of a really good person that you think would make for a great guest, and shoot me a message on one of the platforms that I've told you about: Instagram, Facebook. Go to my YouTube channel. That's where I really want to hear from you, and go to there, but go to TikTok or whatever. I've been putting videos up that are really cool, and I hope to do a lot more of that. Mike, man, I'll tell you what, once again, the book, you can get them. Go get them on either. You sell these on eBay as well, right?
Yeah.
You sell these specifically on eBay?
Yes, I do.
But make sure you're getting it from him.
Amazon, and I've told everybody. I've had a lot of people asking me if I would sign books between now and Christmas. I'm going to try and sign every book that I get an order on. So I've made arrangements to do that. So order a book through Amazon or eBay, and you'll get a signed copy.
I appreciate it very much, Mike. Thank you honestly, I know I'm just going to have you back, because there's going to be some more stuff. There's going to be some more stuff. We'll probably have, who knows, we might even have Dennis come back on too. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough. I appreciate it. very much. You guys have hung in here the whole time. I've been watching the people that have been sitting in this room, and it's been great. And next week, I really don't know who I'm going to have. I have an idea as to who's coming on. I need to get on it. And until then, so next week we should have an episode. I think the week after that, we're going to have one. And then we're coming up on the Christmas break. And I'm not going to do an episode on the Christmas break. I'm not going to do that to a guest, and I'm not going to do one the week of New Year's. That's just silly, because I'll probably have them rebroadcast one of the older episodes of something. I will tell you a couple of episodes I'd highly recommend that you just go back and check out, which would be Sheriff Mark Lamb, the America's Sheriff. He's running for U.S. Congress in Arizona. And that's a great episode anyway. I mean, the guy was freaking awesome. But all of my guests are awesome. They're just interesting people up and down. And I just appreciate everybody being here. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to leave a comment. I love hearing the comments. Freaking subscribe, please. It makes me feel better. And like and subscribe. Honestly, I really do appreciate it. And like I said, leave some comments. If you got questions, further questions, then lay them out on there. And I'm sure that Mike could possibly answer those down the line. Check out his podcast. And what's the name of that podcast again?
Bufford Pusser, The Other Story.
There you go, on YouTube. Until next time. And don't leave here, Mike. I'm gonna holler at you right after. Not really holler at you legitimately, but I'm gonna talk to you.
We'll discuss.
Oklahoma talk. But anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, be safe during this holiday season. And please look at Jeffrey McDonald. I see. Yeah, you talk about an epic case on that one too. Jeffrey McDonald, if you're not aware of it, somebody just put that up. He killed his whole family in 1971 in Camp Lejeune. I think it's Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And I'm kind of a Rain Man when it comes to old murders. I'm a little obsessed, but that's an interesting case. He's still alive. He's in prison. I'd love to write him and see if I got a response back, but he claims his innocence. But he's another person that basically he injured himself. He stabbed himself. And so, it's been known to happen. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I won't keep you any longer. I want to appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you so much. And like I said, I'll put something out, find out if I can get a commitment on somebody for the next week. And until then, you guys have a safe week, and appreciate y'all being here. Take us out, Amanda.